Valentine's Day is a lot like those fancy boxed chocolates. You know, on the outside they're all glossy and sweet looking, but then you take a bite and suddenly you realize,
wait a minute, this isn't caramel.
There's no telling what that filling is.
Wait, it almost tastes like soap.
And that's kind of the story of Valentine's Day. At first glance, it seems to be charming and delightful, but once you get to the center, you find that it's filled with some rather strange stuff. Traditions that make you ask,
who thought this was a good idea?
And that's why we are devoting this whole episode to the holiday that's basically a greatest hits album of odd history, pretending to be romance. So get ready to bite into the center of weirdness that we know as Valentine's Day, on the podcast that answers some of the questions you've always wondered about.
It's the Always Wondered podcast.
Hi, I'm Rick Peterson. Thanks for joining us. Valentine's Day, a holiday about love, devotion, and public goat sacrifice. Yeah, we told you this holiday is kind of bizarre. So have you always wondered the origin of Valentine's Day? We begin in ancient Rome, where February wasn't about roses or chocolates. It was about the festival of Lupercalia.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, today we celebrate fertility, springtime, and goats.
Historians tell us the festival involved sacrificing goats, or perhaps a dog, and then young men would run through the streets gently whacking women with strips of goat hide, which was believed to improve fertility.
Thank you, I think.
But after several centuries, the church looked at this whole goat thing with fresh eyes and said something like,
we need to rebrand this.
Church leaders wanted a Christian day of remembrance instead of a livestock ritual.
Go ahead and take a look at our roster of saints. Who can we promote to a starring role?
What about Valentine?
Perfect. Which one?
Yeah, it turns out there may have been 3 Saint Valentines. The first 2 were beheaded because of their religious beliefs. Now, less is known about the 3rd Valentine, but it's a good bet that he too had a little taken off the top. So, the church set aside February 14th to honor Saint Valentine. Was it one of them? All of them? Who knows? The history is pretty sketchy. But we do know that St. Valentine's Day became a day of feast to honor a courageous martyr who stood up to a tyrant. But initially, the day had absolutely nothing to do with love and romance. That wouldn't come until much later during the Middle Ages, when poets began to link the feast day to the time when birds chose their mates.
Lo, on February 14th, the sparrow seeketh love.
And as luck would have it, love turned out to be a much better vibe than goat whipping. So slowly, somehow miraculously, a day that began with animal sacrifice, public flogging, and confused saints became a beloved holiday about chocolates, greeting cards, and mild anxiety attacks at 9:47 p.m. the night before Valentine's Day.
Is Walgreens still open?
It's the Always Wondered podcast.
Valentine's Day would not be Valentine's Day without Cupid, that cute, chubby little baby with wings. He floats around on Valentine's Day shooting people with arrows of love. But the truth is, he is probably the most dangerous baby in history. So have you always wondered, where did Cupid come from? Well, the original Cupid, first known to the ancient Greeks as Eros, but got a name change when the Romans rose to power, was not a baby. He was a grown man, a powerful god, and frankly, a problem.
I control desire itself.
And he did not have just one kind of arrow, he had 2. Gold arrows caused uncontrollable love. Lead arrows caused uncontrollable rejection, which could lead to some real chaos.
My love for you is higher than the highest mountain.
Yeah, I'd rather marry a rock.
Basically, Cupid did not aim for compatibility, he aimed for maximum emotional damage. That's why in ancient myths, Cupid's arrows caused people to fall in love with trees.
Oh, baby, I love your sap.
Entire wars. And at least one guy who married someone who later turned into a bear.
I knew marriage would change things. I just didn't expect fur.
However, during the Renaissance, artists and poets looked at Cupid and said,
This god is absolutely terrifying. Let's give him an extreme makeover.
And much like witness protection, Cupid was given a whole new identity. They made him into a baby, with dimples and curls and rosy cheeks.
Oh, he's so cute.
Yep, he's small and smiling and wielding a lethal weapon. And you know who else is? Chucky. Chucky stabs you, Cupid shoots you with a supernatural arrow. And neither one bothers to stick around to deal with the aftermath.
Oops, I did it again.
So, the next time you get a card with an adorable little Cupid on it, just remember, those Renaissance artists didn't really remove the menace. They just improved his PR. And while Cupid's smile may say,
I'm so adorable,
what it really says is,
I'm still the god of chaos.
The Always Wondered Podcast.
Valentine's cards, tiny folded pieces of paper meant to say the 3 most important words in the English language.
Let's do lunch.
Yeah, close enough. But have you always wondered where Valentine's cards came from? The tradition goes back to the Middle Ages, when romance meant writing poetry to someone you admired,
My love for you burns like the sun.
which was basically medieval for.
You're hot.
But things changed when the printing press came along. Some smart business person said,
Hey, we can now mass produce feelings.
so the Valentine card was born. At first, they were sweet and kind, as you might expect. But by the Victorian era, those famously polite Victorians turned the tradition on its head with vinegar Valentines, anonymous insult cards.
I love the smell of fresh morning dew, but nothing smells worse than a whiff of you.
They weren't passive-aggressive, just aggressive. And the trend went viral. But eventually, society said,
Maybe Valentines shouldn't emotionally destroy people.
so we leaned back into romance and finally phased out the insults. Well, almost. We still do have the internet. And here's another Valentine's tradition. Have you always wondered where candy hearts come from? Well, they did not start as romance, they started as medicine. Those tiny, chalky morsels were first sold as throat lozenges. But by the mid-1800s, the pharmaceuticals became confections. And when they discovered how to print words on them, it gave birth to what they called conversation candy.
We found that people love to eat their feelings.
At first, the candies came in all kinds of shapes, and messages were much longer, poetry almost. But once they settled on the small heart shape, the phrases had to be pared way down. And they proved to be very popular.
Love you.
Cutie pie, sweet talk.
But as society changed, so did the messages.
Call me.
Sometimes they sounded less like flirting
text me.
and more like a demand.
Kiss me.
But over 8 billion candy hearts are still sold each year, and people love them. So the next time you pour out a box, just remember they began as medicine, became romance, and now they can sometimes sound like a slightly unhinged ultimatum.
Be mine.
The Always Wondered Podcast.
Okay, before we wrap things up, let's talk about the cost of this romantic holiday. In the U.S. alone, we spend more than $27 billion a year on Valentine's Day. It seems the day has become less about secret love notes and more about how dramatically your credit card statement can express your feelings. And it's no surprise that most of the spending is done by guys. But here's an interesting custom. In Japan, there's a tradition where women give men chocolate on Valentine's Day, which is cool. But there's a catch. Women often keep the receipt, and then a month later, the guys are expected to reciprocate with a gift 2 to 3 times the face value.
Wait, this doesn't seem quite fair.
Oh, sweetie, romance is temporary. Receipts are forever.
It's kind of like love on layaway. All right, as always, we leave you with one to ponder. If it's late and you're standing under the fluorescent lights at Walgreens on an emergency Valentine's gift run, have you always wondered, does a car air freshener serve as a suitable substitute for flowers?
Take a whiff, honey. It smells just like gardenias.
Hey, good luck with that. Until next time, stay curious and keep wondering. I'm Rick Peterson. Thanks for listening.
The Always Wondered Podcast.
If you like what you hear, please subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and a review. Listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Feel free to offer suggestions for future topics or simply reach out to alwayswonderedpodcast@gmail.com.